Ladies and gentlemen, this is Addis Dialogue with me, Shifa Raulago. Today on the show, we'll be talking about the multiple benefits Ethiopia will have as a member of the BRICS and the transformations and change it has been going through, specifically over the last couple of decades. On the other hand, we will also touch upon the reasons as to why some in the West seem to still be obsessed with portraying the negative times Ethiopia had to go through, like some 40 years ago, at the time when Geldof released his single, Do They Know It's Christmas? So I'm so honored to have on the show Caleb Monil, who will break it down for us. He is BRICS Ambassador, Vice Chair of African Council on Foreign Relations. Do stay with us. Thank you so much for joining me, for making the time to talk to us on such an important topic.
It's an honor for me to be with you today. And again, thank you for this invitation. I'm looking forward for a great conversation.
Absolutely. I'm so honored to have you on my show as well, sir. So to kickstart our discussion, could you walk us through some of the major benefits that Ethiopia will have as a member of the BRICS?
First, I want to greet you one more time and your listeners, your viewers, wherever you are around the world, and also give greetings to the great people of Ethiopia and your leaders, your president, your prime minister, and the council of ministers. Also, I want to give thanks, also great appreciation to your great emperor, Haile Selassie, who has visited my country a few decades ago, the Republic of Haiti. And this is, I was not even born yet, but it's something that's in my heart. It meant a lot to us. And we're looking forward to strengthen the relationship between our countries, of course. I think at this time that we are in history, it's a great turning point where the multipolar world is full acceleration. It's moving forward. Ethiopia joining the BRICS officially, congratulations to its president, prime minister, and the leaders of this country for making this decision. And we believe that in the days ahead, in the years ahead, we will see mutual benefits. Of course, as we all know that the BRICS, as myself, I'm part of the BRICS, the International Municipal BRICS. And this is one part of the BRICS where we gather and bring together the different municipalities of the different BRIC countries, of course, and non-BRIC countries. But given the fact that your country, Ethiopia, and its leaders have made this great choice, this is something to applaud and really, again, congratulations to your people and to your leaders for making this step. We in the BRICS and the BRICS will look at the mutual benefits, great respect. We don't lecture to world leaders. We don't lecture to president and ministers how and what they should do in their own countries. We work with a high degree of respect for sovereignty and dignity of your internal policies. What we're looking at primarily in our work is mutual development, mutual exchange, mutual cooperations, the win-win to develop, number one, again, things like humanitarian cooperation, strengthening relationships with the different regions and municipal level, the import-export, which we know that Ethiopia can benefit greatly. And another thing also I need to mention, congratulations for your country in launching or discovering coffee. As I read the history of coffee, how it came about, it became now the world #1 drink. And I had Ethiopian coffee before. It's definitely a coffee, okay, to have. Thank you so much. So we know that when it comes to great agricultural products and others, Ethiopia definitely has a lot to offer to the world. In an BRICS, we have countries around the world with some of them at the highest GDPs, Russia, China, South Africa, Brazil, and now we have plenty of others who have joined the BRICS. So we know the cooperation will extend beyond the normal and typical uh, relationships that Ethiopia had in the past.
Since you are the ambassador of IMBRICS, how will you promote Ethiopia as an important African nation and also as an important seat of international organizations, such as the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, and of course, as the seat of the AU and things like that?
Well, what in the development relationship with the IMBRICS is we focus a lot on forming delegation to participate in different summit and forums in different BRICS countries, and where we have a lot of sidelines, negotiations, and agreements that are done, attracting and exchanging commercial organizations between the two countries, and again, forming the requests of import and export of any goods and services. In the area of education, in the area of infrastructure. These are some of the things that in the IMBRICS itself that we focus a lot. And one important key we should mention is development typically start at the base, the local level. So working with different municipalities inside Ethiopia and connecting them with the rest of the IMBRICS nations and the BRICS in general will be, again, something that will be extremely beneficial to Ethiopia. The intermunicipal cooperation, the Twinning Cities program, the intergovernment programs, universities exchange program, research and development. Again, this is the world where the exchange will be greatly beneficial, and it will serve towards the advancement and development of Ethiopia.
I think it goes without saying that Ethiopia is experiencing huge transformations and change in different aspects and areas. I know you closely follow new developments unfolding in Ethiopia in particular and Africa in general, which is really, really appreciable. So what do you make out of the transitions and transformations that Ethiopia is going through as we speak?
Well, I think no transition is easy. Transition always brings some challenges, of course, and that's why there's a transition. In that moment of transition, again, I congratulate your leaders for remaining steadfast and trying their best to navigate and downs of the challenges. We know that great days are ahead for Ethiopia. Your leaders in the country have gone through tough time in the past. And we know that you're going to overcome these tough times that you're going through. But this transition is all to position Ethiopia, in my understanding, in a global platform. And that's why, going back to our previous discussion here, being a member of the BRICS, Ethiopia will be open for more foreign investment and trade opportunities. I believe that Ethiopia, with its ambitious infrastructure goals and investment, definitely has done the right thing to become a member of the BRICS. And one of the key things also to mention is the acceleration of Ethiopia's GDP's growth. I mean, in spite of Ethiopia's challenges, what we see is a constant growth in spite of all. So this is all good results and good steps in the right directions. And of course, we know that there's going to be some things we need to iron out. But as Ethiopia move forward, we can see Ethiopia definitely in the days ahead becoming a leader in the continent.
Despite this, there are some, as you know, in the West that still see Ethiopia through the lenses they used 40 years ago, as in those hunger times when Bob Geldof produced the charity single, Do They Know It's Christmas? What are the major motives behind this that you see? Isn't it kind of parody of the realities on the ground?
Yeah, as you just said, the song was produced 40 years ago. That's 40 years later, Ethiopia is totally different. So to our understanding and the great efforts of Ethiopian leaders and the great work of the Ethiopian people, this song is no longer part of Ethiopia's history, let alone present and future time. And things of that like this, we know that where it come from. Some totally misunderstanding of, number one, Ethiopian people. but also having this mindset of thinking that some people will always be in need. No, that's not the case for Ethiopia. It's 40 years ago, a song was written. 40 years later, it's totally different. It should be in the archive somewhere in the museum right now. We should be singing and dancing and be joyful that Ethiopia is moving forward with economic growth. GDP is moving up. A lot of cooperations with not only the BRICS countries, but also other countries around the world. So this is a total change. It's totally different. It's a new day, a new year for Ethiopia. But one of the things also we need to look at is, who's telling the stories of Ethiopia? Again, is it the Ethiopian people itself who's telling the story? Is it somebody else who doesn't have a clue about the reality on the ground, about the culture, great culture and history of Ethiopia who's telling the story? So that's what we need to look at now. And I think the government and the people of Ethiopia is doing a great job in putting in place medium outlets and others to really tell the true story of Ethiopia, just like other countries in Africa. Unfortunately, Africans don't tell the stories. They don't tell about the great history, culture, the food, the music, the dance. It's until somebody from the Western world visit a country like Ethiopia and discover what they were hearing and seeing in the news totally different, then they go home and start telling. So we definitely need to change the storyteller. We need to tell our own story so that songs that were put together 40 years ago is not the song that today that is going to describe Ethiopia.
I think one of the issues that Africa is facing is that it is having others tell its own stories rather than telling it itself. In this connection, as you know, Band Aid's 1984 charity single, Do They Know It's Christmas, is being reissued to mark 40 years since the original release. Now, as you said, Ethiopia is a totally different nation. So this begs the question as to why are they still obsessed, if you will, with its image 40 years ago? What do you make out of this, Mr. Moli?
Well, again, sadly, some media makes their revenue in telling bad story about others. They're looking for the next drama around the world to tell. They're looking for the next bad news to tell. No, this is not the case for Ethiopia. And again, this song and the views about Ethiopia today is not relevant at all. The Western world and others who are still clinging to the past, the dark past of the dark images of countries like Ethiopia, let's invite them to come and visit. Let's invite them to do some tourism exchange and for them to come and see the great site of scripture and biblical history of Ethiopia. Let's invite them to come and see the birthplace of Rastafarian that many people in the Western world, black and white, they have adopted to. They don't realize that it was birthed at Ethiopia. Let's invite them to taste Ethiopian food and the great coffee that Ethiopia has. And again, we know a lot of good things come out of Ethiopia, but they don't tell. Because it's in the dinner table, it's in the restaurants in the Western world, and so. But unfortunately, they're not telling the true story. Probably they don't know the story, but let's tell them something different. Let's invite them to come and see what Ethiopia is about. And I think all the efforts that the Ethiopian government is doing right now to change the narrative and the picture will definitely make an impact very soon. Position itself as a BRICS member, adopting new policies for investments and tourism and exchange will also change the narrative in the near future. So again, all the right steps in the right directions. So again, congratulations, and the story is definitely different now.
I think this is also true of Africa in general. It's not just specific to Ethiopia. So Also, on a larger scale, why do some Western artists and politicians seem to be clinging to Africa's past dark image rather than appreciating the positive developments that's clearly visible to everyone?
You know, what's interesting when you take a look at social media and you take a look in the traditional media, if somebody's talking about Paris and they show you Paris Tour de Eiffel, right? If somebody's talking about United States and they show you New York City, the tall buildings and Washington, D.C., right? And when they're talking about Africa as a continent or some particular countries, they go straight into showing you animals and jungles and things like that. They don't realize that countries like South Africa and Rwanda and Ethiopia and others in Ghana and plenty of other countries, I can go on and on and on. Number one, rich in natural resources that we know, the birthplace of civilization that we know, the birthplace of many religions. Ethiopia is one with great history of Christianity, Rastafarian, great culture and food, science, looking at Egypt and several other countries, the pyramid, they're still trying to figure out what happened, who built them. So why every time we're talking about an African country, they're showing you pictures of lions and monkeys and the jungle and the dirt? Again, that goes to say that what we need to question their motive about that. We need to question their motive, and we need to again change the narrative by changing the storyteller and being our own storyteller to make that happen. And sadly, also we understand that at a time, there's money in poverty, and so others capitalize on things that they know they can capitalize on, and saying that they're doing work in countries in Africa, they're providing food to the children, and they're saving lives. When in fact, we do know that African countries are capable of maintaining and sustaining their people. The work that we are doing right now in Ethiopia is what is again is the perfect work to be done, because you're investing in people, investing in infrastructure and education, joining alliances with BRICS to attract more cooperations. That's the answer, and that's the way forward. That's the way to change the picture and to change the narrative about Africa and the countries like Ethiopia.
So I think it's a travesty of realities on the ground, and I think it calls for the collaboration of each and everyone concerned. Caleb, Monel, thank you so much for giving me this wonderful idea. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely, and thank you so much.
Definitely. Yes, sir. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we come to the end of today's program. Many thanks to you as well for having been with us so far. Until I see you next time with yet another program, it's a goodbye from me, Shifara.